My father tried to humiliate me at my graduation until the dean spoke up. "You'll never amount to anything. Not really. And everyone's going to know it." That's what my father said to me 3 days before my college graduation. Not in anger, not in a moment of losing control. He said it slowly, deliberately, like he was making sure I heard every single word. And the worst part? He meant it as a promise. I'm Sarah Mitchell, 22 years old. I work as a junior content strategist at a marketing firm here in Charlotte, North Carolina. And I'm about to tell you how my father tried to publicly destroy me on what was supposed to be the proudest day of my life, and how it completely backfired. If you want to know what happened next, keep listening. My dad was never the warm type. Growing up, I had an older brother, Michael, 2 years ahead of me in school, better at sports, funnier at dinner. My dad adored Michael. Michael was the golden child. Natural at everything, confident, never needed to try too hard. And then there was me. I wasn't rebellious, I wasn't troubled. I was just careful, deliberate. The kind of kid who read the instructions before assembling something instead of just diving in. I did my homework the day it was assigned. I worked part-time jobs in high school to pay for college prep courses. I networked. I asked teachers questions. I built my GPA like a project. My dad used to call it overthinking things. My mom was different. She was the buffer, the one who'd say, "That's wonderful, Sarah. I'm so proud of you." After my dad had just spent dinner explaining why my 4.0 GPA wouldn't matter because I lacked presence. But even her support felt like it had a quiet asterisk next to it. Like she was defending me, but she also kind of agreed with him. The line I'll never forget was during Christmas, my junior year of high school. Michael had just gotten into a good college on a partial athletic scholarship. My dad was glowing, and I'd been accepted early admission to UNC Charlotte with a full academic scholarship. Full ride, everything covered. I thought he'd be impressed. Instead, he looked at me while Michael was in the kitchen and said, "Scholarships are nice, but Michael earned his through excellence. You earned yours through effort." Like effort was the consolation prize. Like trying hard meant you weren't actually smart. That one line. I can still feel where I was sitting, the leather chair by the window. I can still see his face. But here's the thing about me. I didn't break. I didn't cry in front of him. What I did was double down. I graduated with a 4.2 GPA. I got internships at 3 different agencies. I built a portfolio of actual client work, real campaigns I designed and managed. By the time I was 22, I was already employed full-time at a solid firm, on my way up. I thought that would matter to him. I thought that would finally be enough. 3 months before graduation, I sent my parents formal graduation announcements. I'd had them printed, nice cardstock, my name in that official university font. My mom called immediately. "Oh, sweetie, it's beautiful. We'll be there in the front row." My dad didn't call. A week later, he sent an email, just to me. No subject line. It said, "I'm not attending the ceremony. Michael was there for my retirement party last year. You'll understand that I have to draw the line somewhere. Besides, I'll only be disappointed in what's coming next anyway. Your mother is going if she wants to waste the afternoon, but I won't be there to pretend." I read it maybe 15 times. The thing about subtle emotional cruelty is that it gives you just enough plausible deniability to wonder if you're the one being unfair for being hurt by it. Was he saying he wouldn't come? Was he saying he'd considered not coming? I couldn't even be sure. I called my mom. She was quiet for a long time. "I'm sure he'll change his mind," she finally said. But her voice had that familiar tone, the one that meant she knew he wouldn't. I did what I always did. I documented it. I saved that email. I wrote down the date and time. Not because I knew I'd need it for anything, just because it felt like a strange thing to document, so I did. 2 weeks later, my dad called me at work. This was unusual. We didn't really call each other. Email was our mode. Safer, I think, for both of us. "Your mother tells me you've been saying I'm not supportive," he said. No greeting. Straight into it. "Is that what you're telling your friends?" "I haven't said that to anyone," I answered carefully. "Because if you graduate and people ask where your father is, and you decide to make me look bad, we're going to have a problem. Your college fund came from family money your grandfather left, and I manage that account. It's not yours until you're 25. That was the moment everything shifted. Not because he was threatening me explicitly, but because I suddenly understood this wasn't about whether he came to the graduation. This was about control. "Are you threatening to take my money?" I asked quietly. "I'm stating a fact. You have until the ceremony ends to decide if you're going to be grateful or if you're going to be a problem." And then he hung up. But that wasn't even the worst part. Over the next 2 weeks, the pressure intensified. My mom started texting me, gently at first, then with increasing urgency. "Your dad is really stressed about this. You know how he gets. Maybe you could just reach out to him?" Reach out to him, not the other way around. Michael texted me too. Just one line. "Dad's in a mood. Just let it go." Let it go. As if my father's refusal to come to my graduation, combined with a veiled threat about my college fund, was something I should simply accept as his right to be difficult. Then my grandmother called, my dad's mother. She lived about 40 minutes away in a retirement community, and my dad must have called her because she said things like, "Your father says you've been making him feel unwelcome. And he's always been there for you, Sarah. This is a hurtful way to repay that." None of it was true. But none of it needed to be true to work. The goal wasn't accuracy. The goal was isolation, confusion, making me doubt myself. I started having anxiety attacks at work. Real ones. Chest tightness, hard time breathing, that feeling like you're going crazy, but you can't quite explain why. My boss noticed. I didn't tell her why. Then something didn't add up. My mom mentioned, very casually, while we were meal prepping for graduation week, that my dad had told her he might pop by after all. Not for the ceremony, but maybe for a dinner after. "Did he tell you that directly?" I asked. "No, he mentioned it to Michael, who mentioned it to me. Third-hand information. Plausible deniability. If I said anything to my dad, he could claim he never said that. If I didn't prepare for him to show up, and he did show up, I'd look ungracious for not expecting him." This was the pattern I was starting to see. He never did anything directly. It was always through proxies. Always deniable. Always my fault for misinterpreting. That's when I realized what this was really about. It wasn't about the graduation. It wasn't even about respect. It was about keeping me small, keeping me uncertain, keeping me believing that my accomplishments didn't really matter because he hadn't validated them. I wish I could say that was the end of it. That I stood up to him right then, set a boundary, and we all moved on. But that's not what happened. 4 days before graduation, I got a text from one of my college roommates, Jessica. It said, "Your dad texted Michael asking if you'd be having a special dinner after. He said something about wanting to talk through some things with you. Why does your dad have Michael's number but not yours?" That's when it clicked into place. My father was orchestrating something. He wasn't just deciding whether to come. He was setting up a scenario. He'd already lost the direct angle with me. I wasn't responding with guilt or fear or apologies. So he was reaching out through everyone else. Building a narrative. Creating a situation where I'd have to see him. Where it would look bad if I didn't want to see him. The graduation ceremony itself was going to have 2,000 people. My immediate family would sit together in a reserved section. That's where he was planning to be. Not sitting with me out of love, but positioned near me, in front of everyone, where whatever happened next would be public. I called my mom that night. "I think Dad's planning something for the graduation," I said. "Like a confrontation. I think he's trying to set it up." My mom was quiet. "Why would he do that?" she finally asked. "Because I haven't reacted the way he wanted me to, so he's escalating. He's going to try to embarrass me or provoke me into reacting badly, so he can tell everyone that I'm the problem." "Sarah, you're being paranoid." But even as she said it, her voice wavered. Because she knew. She knew what he was like. She'd been managing his emotional moods for 25 years. I spent the next 48 hours in a state of controlled panic. I couldn't focus. I couldn't sleep. Part of me wanted to just tell my parents not to come at all. Cancel the whole thing. Get my degree in private and spare myself the theater. But that would have meant he won. That would have meant letting fear of his behavior steal something that I'd earned. So instead, I did what I always do. I prepared. I texted my best friend, Marcus, who I'd invited to the ceremony with his family. I told him where I'd be sitting. I told him to watch me. I didn't tell him why. I just said, "I might need you to see something that happens." I sent my mom an email detailing everything my dad had said and done over the past 3 weeks. The phone call about the college fund, the texts from Michael, the third-hand information about him may be coming. I attached the original email he'd sent. I wrote, "I love you, but I need you to know what's happening here in case things get difficult on graduation day." She didn't respond, but she didn't delete it either. I could see she'd read it. And then I did something that probably saved me later. I set up my phone on my nightstand and called my dad. I recorded it, legally, because I was in North Carolina, a one-party consent state. I didn't tell him I was recording. I just called. "Hi, Dad. It's Sarah. I wanted to talk to you before graduation, just to confirm what to expect." "About what?" "About whether you're coming to the ceremony. Mom said you might show up afterward. I want to make sure I'm prepared for that." His voice got very calm, very controlled. "I haven't made up my mind. It depends on what kind of daughter I'm going to see at that ceremony. Are you going to be grateful? Or are you going to be ungrateful and blame me for not showing up? I haven't blamed you for anything, but you implied that I wouldn't be there, didn't you? You told your mother I was unsupportive. I never said that. Then why does your mother seem to think I'm the villain in this story?" And there it was, the real complaint. Not about the graduation. About his image. About the fact that my mom, his wife of 26 years, had apparently expressed concern that he was being cruel to me. "I don't know," I said quietly, "but I'm proud of what I've accomplished. I hope you can be proud too. Pride is easy to claim when you haven't earned anything yet. You have a job. So does everyone else. You finished college, good for you. But you did it because you're stubborn and difficult, not because you're exceptional. And I'm not going to pretend otherwise." I didn't respond. I just let him keep talking. He rambled a bit about how society was too easy on people my generation, how real accomplishment meant something different in his day, how my attitude had been a problem since I was young. Then he said the thing that would matter later. "I'm coming to the ceremony tomorrow, and I'm going to sit right there and watch you graduate. And afterward, we're going to have a conversation about your future, and I hope you're ready to listen." That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying that conversation. "I'm coming tomorrow." But he hadn't said that until I set up the situation where it was impossible for him to deny being involved. We're going to have a conversation, not an invitation, a demand. I pulled out my laptop and started documenting everything systematically. I created a Google Doc with the timeline. December 25th, 2 years prior. Scholarships are nice, but Michael earned his through excellence. 3 months ago. Email with no subject line about not attending. 2 weeks ago. Phone call threatening the college fund. 1 week ago. Grandmother's call about me making him feel unwelcome. 5 days ago. Text from Jessica about Michael having his number. Yesterday. The recorded call. I also started pulling my financial documents. My college fund account statement. The original estate documents from my grandfather's will. The financial aid office at UNC Charlotte had copies of my scholarship documentation. That's when I noticed something. My college fund account showed a deposit that didn't match my tuition. The deposit had been made in my name, but it was about $15,000 more than my actual 4-year costs. I'd never thought about it before. I'd just used what I needed, and the rest had sat there. When I called the financial advisor who managed it, she said, "Your father specified that anything remaining after graduation goes back into the family trust. He's the trustee until you're 25. So technically, yes, he could freeze that account." He could freeze it, just like he'd threatened. I wrote everything down. Every threat, every manipulation, every veiled comment. I made a timeline on my computer and printed 3 copies. I gave one to Marcus. I put one in an envelope and sealed it with my signature across the seal, so if anything happened, I could prove it hadn't been opened. And I kept one with me. That's when I realized what this was really about. And it wasn't about money or graduation, or even me specifically. My father was losing control. For 22 years, I'd been the daughter he could discourage, guilt trip, and subtly demean. And instead of breaking, I'd just gotten quieter and more determined. I'd built a life that worked without his approval, and that terrified him. Because if I didn't need his validation, what power did he have left? The ceremony was at 10 a.m. on a Saturday. The weather was perfect. Clear, blue sky, 75 degrees, the kind of May morning that feels like a beginning. I put on my cap and gown in my apartment, looked at myself in the mirror, took a breath, and then I did something deliberately. I recorded a voice memo on my phone. It's 9:47 a.m., May 18th. I'm about to walk across the stage. Whatever happens next today, this is my moment. This is what I earned. And nobody gets to take that from me. I didn't know I'd need it, but I wanted to remember that I'd said it. My mom looked beautiful when I saw her in the waiting area. She hugged me tighter than usual. My brother was there too, fidgeting with his phone. My dad stood to the side wearing a suit, his face neutral. He smiled at me. Not a warm smile, an evaluating smile. "Ready?" he asked. "Yes," I said. The ceremony itself was 4 hours long. Walking across the stage, I felt every eye on me, or at least I felt like I did. The Dean of Students, Dr. Patricia Wells, called my name. I shook her hand. She looked at me and said quietly, "Congratulations, Sarah. Truly." There was something in her voice that suggested she meant it. After the ceremony, the whole extended family met up in a private room that the university had reserved for parties. It was neutral territory. Anyone could see in through the glass walls. My mom had arranged it. She was trying, in her own way, to protect me. My dad pulled me aside about 15 minutes into the reception. "We need to talk, in private," he said. He was already walking toward a smaller side room, the one reserved for quiet conversations, the one with only one door. I followed him, but I didn't close the door all the way. I made sure it was visibly open, so Marcus or my mom could see if they looked over. "I want you to understand something," he said quietly. His voice was soft, which was somehow worse than if he'd been yelling. "Your college fund is still in my name. Your brother's is paid off, but yours has, let's call it, temporary restrictions placed on it until you're 25. That was the arrangement when your grandfather's money came through. So if you decide to make this family look bad, if you go around telling people I didn't come to your graduation because I'm some kind of monster, there will be consequences." What kind of consequences? I asked. The kind where you have to explain to future employers why you had a sudden financial gap in your accounts. The kind where people ask questions. The kind where your credibility takes a hit. This was it. This was the moment. And I was calm. I have everything documented, I said quietly. Every conversation, every threat, every comment about my character that isn't based on anything I've actually done. And I'm telling you right now, I'm not going to say anything to anyone unless you force me to. But if you push this any further, I will. His face changed. For just a second, I saw something flicker across it. Something like fear. Or maybe anger that I wasn't responding the way he wanted. You recorded me? That's very nice, Sarah. Very legally savvy. That's also not admissible in court. And frankly, it makes you look unstable. I didn't record you today, I said. But I did record our conversation yesterday. And that one is admissible, because I'm in a one-party consent state. And I also have documentation of all the financial threats you've made. So actually, we should talk about what happens next with clear heads instead of in anger. He was quiet for a long moment. You've always been ungrateful, he finally said. No, I replied. I've always been careful. There's a difference. And then I walked out of that room. I didn't run. I didn't cry. I didn't raise my voice. I just turned around, walked back into the reception area where 200 of my extended family and friends were celebrating, and I hugged my mom. What happened? She whispered. Nothing, I said. But a lot almost did. My dad stayed for another 20 minutes and then left without saying goodbye. It was only after he was gone that I realized the full genius of what he'd done. He'd shown up, which meant he could tell his friends, I was there at her graduation. But his departure was silent enough that no one would question it. And he'd orchestrated a private confrontation where, if I had reacted badly, he could have said, she was so ungrateful that I had to leave early. He'd set up the plausible deniability in advance. But he hadn't counted on the fact that I would document everything. On Monday, I requested a meeting with Dr. Patricia Wells, the dean of students who'd presented my diploma. I brought my documentation folder, the timeline, the screenshots of emails, the printout of the college fund account statement, and a handwritten summary of each conversation. I sat across from her in her office, and I told her everything. I wasn't crying. I wasn't asking her to fix anything. I was just presenting facts. I'm not telling you this because I want you to punish my father, I said. I'm telling you this because if there's a pattern here, if he tries to contact anyone at the university with complaints about me, or if he tries to influence anything to do with my academic record, I want there to be a documented reason for it. Dr. Wells read through my folder very carefully. I watched her face as she did. She was taking notes. Sarah, she finally said, I want to ask you something. And I want you to know that you can answer honestly. Do you feel safe? Yes, I said. But I don't feel supported, and I'm trying to make sure that doesn't get worse. She nodded slowly. I'm going to tell you something that I probably shouldn't, she said. Your father came to the university's administrative office last week, before graduation. He asked if there was any way to encourage you to pursue a different academic path, because he was concerned about your limited potential. And he also asked if your scholarship could be reviewed, because he believed the university had made a mistake. My stomach dropped. He did what? He wanted us to pull your scholarship. He claimed there had been a calculation error. When we reviewed your file, there was no error. Your GPA, your test scores, your demonstrated achievement, all of it warranted the scholarship. He just wanted us to take it away. I felt my hands shaking. We don't discuss these kinds of requests with families usually, Dr. Wells continued. But because you've come to me with this documentation, I want you to know. We're going to be keeping a close eye on any future contact from your father with this university. And your scholarship stands. It's ironclad. That's when I understood the full scope of what he'd been trying to do. It wasn't just about controlling me emotionally. It was about demolishing my credibility, taking away the thing I'd earned, making me doubt whether I'd actually deserved it. And if he could do that, he could frame the whole story as, I was just trying to help my daughter understand reality. 2 weeks after graduation, my mom called me. "Your father and I have been talking," she said. Her voice was different, clearer somehow. "And I've been thinking about what you showed me. The timeline, all of it." "Okay," I said carefully. "I want to tell you something I should have told you a long time ago. This isn't the first time he's done this. The emotional manipulation, the threats, the trying to control your narrative. He did it to me. He did it to my sister. He did it to one of his business partners until they eventually cut him off. Why are you telling me this now?" "Because I'm tired," my mom said simply. "And because watching him try to destroy you at the one moment where you should be completely proud of yourself, I couldn't stay quiet anymore." She told me that she'd spent months in therapy, trying to figure out why she felt like she was always defending him, always making excuses, always stepping in between his words and their impact on everyone else. And that watching him with me had made her see the pattern clearly. "He's never been proud of anyone," she said, "because pride in someone else means they don't need him. And if they don't need him, he has no leverage. My dad never contacted me after graduation, but he did contact the university. According to Dr. Wells, he sent 3 separate emails claiming that there were serious concerns about my daughter's mental stability and suggesting that the university had a responsibility to reach out to her. He tried to frame the documentation I'd shown the dean as evidence that I was obsessive and paranoid. But here's the thing. I'd already given Dr. Wells my full timeline, and the timestamps matched. The dates of his emails to the university were after I'd come to her. So what he'd written looked exactly like what it was. A vindictive parent trying to damage his daughter after she'd refused to be controlled. Dr. Wells forwarded his emails to our campus counseling center with a note. "FYI, this is a parent attempting to weaponize our mental health services against his adult daughter after she documented financial and emotional abuse. Please document this and keep it on file." She also sent me copies. She said, "I think you need to know what he's doing, and I think you need to know that we're not going to help him hurt you." That email changed everything for me. 3 months after graduation, my mom moved into her own apartment. She didn't leave because of me exactly, but she left partly because of what she'd realized watching him with me. She said she couldn't keep protecting him from the consequences of his own behavior. My dad sent her a letter, a formal, typed letter, claiming that she was having a mental health crisis brought on by outside influences, meaning me. He demanded that she return home and seek professional help. She showed me the letter and said, "I think I need to get a lawyer." I helped her hire one, a family law attorney named Sylvia Chen, who specialized in situations exactly like this, where one spouse was trying to isolate and control through emotional manipulation and financial threats. The first thing Sylvia did was send a formal letter to my father demanding that he 1. Stop contacting my mother except through her lawyer. 2. Provide a full accounting of all family finances and college fund accounts. 3. Explain the restrictions he'd placed on my college fund, which appeared to violate the terms of my grandfather's will. Provide documentation of his attempts to interfere with my scholarship. The letter was professional. It wasn't aggressive. But it made one thing clear. My mother wasn't going to be pushed around anymore. And neither was I. My dad responded by hiring his own lawyer and claiming that my mother was brainwashed by me and her family. He demanded she return home. He claimed he'd done nothing wrong. But Sylvia had anticipated that. She'd requested copies of all his communications, the emails to the university, the text messages to Michael, everything. When his lawyer reviewed the paper trail, suddenly his defense became much harder. There was documentation of every threat, every attempt to interfere with my education. Every financial manipulation. The case didn't go to court. Instead, there was a mediation session. At that session, my dad was confronted with the full scope of what he'd done. Not just to me, but to my mother. Years of financial control, isolation from family, emotional abuse disguised as tough love. He did what he always did. He tried to deny it. He tried to reframe it. He tried to claim that everyone was overreacting. But the documentation didn't lie. The settlement required full transparency of all finances to my mother. She has access to every account. My college fund is now legally transferred to my name, with no restrictions. My father is required to complete a court-mandated anger management and family counseling program. He has no contact with me or my mother except through their respective lawyers for a period of 1 year, with possibility of extension. He is required to provide a formal, written apology to both of us. Not because it would fix anything, but because it's part of acknowledging what he did. Did he give that apology gracefully? No. It took 3 drafts, and even the final version was guarded and defensive. But he signed it, and it's on record. It's been 8 months since graduation. My mom is doing better than she has in years. She's in therapy, she's rebuilt relationships with her sister and her friends, and she's creating a life that's entirely her own. She's still married to my dad, but only because that's her choice. She's not trapped anymore. My brother and I have had a long conversation about how he was used as a proxy in all of this. He didn't realize it at the time. He was just trying to keep the peace. But now he sees the pattern too. We're still working through it. And me? I'm at the marketing firm. I got promoted last month. I'm actually using that college degree. And I'm not constantly waiting for the other shoe to drop. I'm not wondering if I should feel guilty for being successful. I'm not checking my phone wondering if someone's going to tell me I'm ungrateful or unstable. I talk to my mom every Sunday. And occasionally, in a very formal way, I correspond with my dad through his lawyer. It's not a relationship, but it's honest. And that's something. Here's what I learned through all of this. Emotional abuse doesn't always look like yelling or aggression. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's polite. Sometimes it's disguised as concern. And the people who do it are usually counting on the fact that you won't see the pattern until it's too late. But I did see it. Because I documented it. Because I didn't gaslight myself into thinking I was overreacting. And because I was willing to set a boundary that cost me something. The illusion that my father was just a difficult person, rather than someone actively trying to hurt me. The hardest part wasn't the confrontation. It wasn't the legal stuff or the mediation. The hardest part was accepting that my father was never going to be the person I wanted him to be. And that was okay. Because my worth doesn't depend on his validation. If you've been through something like this, if someone you love has tried to control you through fear or shame or financial manipulation, I want to hear about it. Tell me in the comments. Not for me to solve, but so you know you're not alone. So you know what you experienced is real. And if you're currently in a situation like this, please reach out to someone. A trusted friend, a therapist, a legal advisor. You don't have to figure it out alone. Thank you for listening. And congratulations to everyone who celebrated any kind of win lately, big or small. You earned it, and you deserve to feel proud.